everyone, this is video 6 for Maddison's YouTube channel, and today I'm going to be talking about sweat tests and kind of our experience with them. We've had quite a few of them done between Benjamin and Maddison, so this is just kind of our experience with them. So first and foremost, a sweat test is a tool to help diagnose cystic fibrosis or to confirm a diagnosis, and it measures the amount of salt in somebody's sweat. People with cystic fibrosis have a large amount of salt in their sweat. The way that, it's a little bit backwards between Benjamin and Maddison, so I'm going to kind of explain that. In one of our previous videos, I talked about how Maddison was diagnosed, and her newborn screen came back positive for CF, which is like a blood test that they do. And at that time, they had both genetic mutations in blood work for Maddison. So they were fairly certain that she had cystic fibrosis, and the sweat test was done as just a confirmation of that diagnosis. So Benjamin's newborn screen came back completely negative, nothing showed up for CF. And they went ahead and gave him a sweat test, I believe 2 days after Maddison got her sweat test and a confirmed diagnosis of CF. So they gave it to him just as a precautionary measure, just to make sure everything was okay. So I'm going to kind of read to you the values and reference ranges for this test. And this is off of cff.org, the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation's website. So less than 39 is an unlikely diagnosis of CF. Between 40 and 59 is a possible CF diagnosis. And anything that's greater to or equal to 60 is a likely diagnosis for cystic fibrosis. Okay, so the first time that Ben had a sweat test done, it was just a couple days after Maddie's positive sweat test, which her numbers were 22 on one arm and 109 on the other arm. Okay, so his first test was 34 and 31, which falls into the unlikely category. So, you know, there wasn't any kind of red flags for him. So we just kind of left it be. And then, so in about October 2015, Benjamin was really having a hard time with weight gain. He's always kind of had a hard time with this. He was born 2 months premature, so he's always been just a tiny little guy. And weight has always kind of been a struggle just because he's so busy and active and just wants to go, and he doesn't have time to sit down and eat, and it's really hard to get him to eat. So it's always kind of been an issue for him. He's just always been smaller. So in about October, he was pretty tiny. I don't know what it's necessarily called, but he was like in the 2% for BMI, his weight and height ratio, and that's pretty low. He wasn't gaining weight. At this point, he was actually getting a lot of respiratory issues going on. Couldn't get over his colds very well. He was having kind of unusual bowel movements and things like that, and we were just kind of concerned. His pediatrician is the one that actually recommended that we have him re-sweated for a second time. So we went ahead and had that sweat test done in October 2015, and this time his numbers came back at 57 on one arm and 60 on one arm. So he was in the category of possible CF diagnosis to CF likely being a diagnosis. So at this point, because of those numbers, they went ahead and started him on enzymes, and they sent out some blood work to check for both mutations in case the newborn screen had missed the mutations. The blood work would take about 6 weeks to get back. During that time, we did what's called a fecal elastase test. I think that I said that right. Elastase test. But it just measures whether or not pancreatic enzymes are working to break down and digest his food correctly, and that he's absorbing his food correctly. And he was great on that test. So usually people with cystic fibrosis can't do that. They can't absorb their food without the help of pancreatic enzymes, which is what they had started him on because of his numbers for his sweat test, thinking that it could be a possibility. So once his once his fecal elastase test came back really great, we went ahead and discontinued those enzymes. He didn't need them, which was awesome. So we just kind of had to wait for the blood test to come back. The blood work came back about 6 weeks later, and it showed that he does have one mutation. He's just a carrier. To have CF, you have to have 2 mutations. So Maddison's mutations are the delta F508, which is the most common and affects about 80% of people with cystic fibrosis. And her second mutation is the G551D mutation, which affects about 2 to 3% of people. And Benjamin has the G551D mutation. Now, just kind of a side note, because I didn't know this at first going into it, but this is a whole nother thing, but in the future, should we decide to have more children, if they were to have cystic fibrosis or be a carrier for it, those are the only 2 mutations that they would have. So either I have the delta F508 mutation or I have G551D, and Nick has the delta F508. So we each have one. We don't know which one has which, but each of us has one. So those are the only 2 mutations that our kids would ever have. So anyways, his blood work came back positive for the G551D, which means he's just a carrier. He did not have both mutations, which is wonderful. So at that point, our cystic fibrosis team decided, okay, it's probably poor nutrition. He has poor weight gain. We need to take some steps to get him healthier and to put some good weight on him, because poor weight gain and poor growth can affect those numbers. So we worked really hard, and over a course of 6 months, he gained right under 5 pounds, which is great. He drank a lot of Boost, Boost 1.5s, and 3 times a day, and just butter on everything. So we worked hard to get him to gain that weight, and he looks great and filled out great, and he's grown inches, and he's great. Anyways, so we just had him retested for a 3rd time on April 5th, 2016, and his numbers came back wonderful. They were 22 and 24 this time, which is not even in the unlikely zone, like, or I guess it is in the unlikely zone, but it's not in like the gray area. So it was just great. It was great. So in this video, I wanted to do this as a 1 video because I keep doing 2-part videos, but I'm already at 8 minutes. So I'm going to have to make this a 2-part video. Sorry about that. But so in this part 2 of the video, I went ahead and recorded Ben's sweat test and kind of, well, not kind of, exactly what happens during a sweat test. I did turn off the camera for the actual sweat test part, like where they turn on the machines, because just from him having it a couple other times, then Maddison having it, I know that that's not fun, and I knew that he would, you know, be crying, and I obviously didn't want to show that. So it kind of skips that part, but it lasted for 5 minutes. They had the machines on for 5 minutes. So yeah, I think that's all for this video. Like I said, part 2 will be up next, and then as far as a next video is concerned, I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to be doing next. Right now we're working on a really big fundraiser. It's going to be a family fun day, and we have a lot of fun things going on, and it's taken up a lot of my time to do this. It's seriously like a full-time job. So our fundraiser is less than a month away, so I'm really focused on that, and I will probably do a video after that. So the fundraiser is going to be May 14th, so look for a video after that. Yeah, thanks for watching. Let me know if you guys have any questions, and see you soon.